What's up, everybody? April 13th edition of the Fightful MMA Podcast. Yours truly, Joe Ferraro. Make sure you do follow me online at Showdown Joe. Of course, my guest on Thursdays, Frank Trigg, all the way from Hawaii. We got to say good morning. Give him a follow at Frank Trigg on his social media. Frank, I got my Toronto Maple Leafs jersey or T-shirt on. Obviously, the Leafs are playing tonight against the Washington Capitals. I don't expect him to win at least one game. I mean, hopefully one, but best team in the league. We'll see what happens. But I see something on your face there. You got some scruff going on there or what?
Yeah, about a week's growth right now. Coming back. Had to shave again. When I shave again, I think right after we did our episode last week, I had to shave again. So it's about a week right now. Just trying to get the scruff back. Try to grow back to a full, luxurious beard. It's going to take me a couple months. But
a full, luxurious beard.
Yeah.
Only to have it shaved off again if you have to do another roll like you did last time?
Yeah. I'm kind of a prostitute in that sense. So you pay me enough money, I'll pretty much do anything.
All right. I want to get your thoughts on a variety of issues because at UFC 210, you were one of the parties I was going back and forth with some of the debacles that went on. Obviously, the big one would be the Gegard Mousasi and Chris Weidman situation. Obviously, Frank, for those of you that don't know, Frank is a certified referee judge and does a variety of reffing, some pretty big fights. Obviously, with Bellator, hopefully will be in the UFC very, very soon. So many eyeballs were on that pay-per-view watching, obviously in the arena. I knew what the answer was, in my opinion, right away. I confirmed with you. You agreed. Big John McCarthy was there, but I want to walk through a bunch of things. And ladies and gentlemen, by the way, if you're tuned in live with us right now, don't forget, we do have the live chat open on the screen there on the right-hand side of your screen. So make sure, if you have any questions or comments or anything, suggestions for Frank and I will endeavor to get to them as we move along in this podcast. Frank, before we get to the Weidman and Mousasi situation, I do want to talk about Implantgate with Pearl Gonzalez. That was crazy from a whole variety of perspectives, but is that the first time you've ever come across something like that where a fight was basically on the line because a participant had breast implants?
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard of that happening. Because there's so many medical checks, there's so much stuff you have to do before you even show up, that they would have known that Pearl had implants, and if it was illegal, they would have said something when they're trying to match the fight up. Because remember, once you have your fight matched up as a promotion, you have to turn it into the commission. So the commission has to really look at it and go, hey, CM Punk can't fight John Jones. It'd be a highly watched fight, but it's a complete mixed match. So they can't put that fight together. The commission won't allow it. So the commission sees these fights in front. And so they're going to ask, there's a certain number of questions they ask before you even approach them with a fight. My assumption is if it's illegal for women to have breast implants, they're going to mention that when they submit that fight matchup, and they're going to go, well, then one of the girls has implants, they can't fight. I'm not sure, but I want to say Ariel Helwani broke the story, but I'm not positive. That's where I saw it first, and it didn't ring really true to me when he was like, oh, fight's off because she has breast implants. I'm like, there's so many things that go on before the fight even gets announced, because it has to be approved by New York, that you would have assumed somebody would have got through that all the way done. And then it didn't come out until after weigh-in. So how do they not find this out, before weigh-ins even happen? Like they get all the way through now with the fight's actually official. It's not really official until you weigh in. Now we've weighed in, now the fight's official, now it's off. Like that didn't make any sense. I think, and I'm not positive because New York is a new commission, so I'm not sure how they run it. But a lot of states, the commission for boxing and MMA is the same commission. It's the same chief, right? So like Nevada, it's run by the same person. Nevada for MMA and boxing in Nevada, it's run by the same person. California, it's got two branches, right? And Andy Foster runs MMA, so they have a separate deal for boxing. I think that might be an old boxing rule that's on the books in New York, but it's not an MMA rule, because the MMA commissioner came out and goes, never heard of that. I don't know what you're talking about. Like it's totally fine. And then of course Dana White comes out and blasts on Twitter like, unless we say it's off, it's not off. So, and the fight, of course, as we all saw, went ahead as planned. But it was really weird to have something like that stop it. And their whole thing is like worrying about it rupturing by getting punched in the chest and having it rupture. I can understand that point, but it takes a lot of force to make that happen. And I don't think any woman, even at a heavyweight level, is going to be able to hit hard enough to pop it. But I'm not a doctor, so I don't really know.
Well, then it brings us over to the Chris Weidman and Gegard Mousasi debacle. That was a debacle, and I don't want to point fingers, necessarily at Dan Miragliotta, but in the end, if there was an error, because there's a couple things that went through my mind. Obviously, the knees were legal. There's the whole instant replay situation that all of a sudden says that the news came out that the referees are allowed to use instant replay in New York, but it's not official in the rules, which confuses the whole process even more. But Big John McCarthy did tell Dan Miragliotta that the knees were legal, and there was already a doctor in the cage. Now, in my situation, or my assumption was, the minute I got word, if I'm the referee, the minute I got word that those knees were legal, that doctor needs to get out of the cage immediately. He has no business being in there, whether the fighter's concussed or not. But if the doctor wants to stop the fight, the official announcement is, according to the doctor, based on the doctor, blah, blah, it's stoppage. The announcement from Bruce Buffer was Dan Miragliotta stopped the fight due to TKO. That confuses this whole thing altogether. So walk me through what was going through your mind, because I'm not going through the text that you wrote me. Walk me through what went through your mind when all that was going on all the way up until the end.
So Dan Miragliotta was 100% correct in his stopping it from the original point, because from his vantage point, it looked like both hands were down. Okay, so of course he stops for illegal blow. He gives Gegard a talking to, but Gegard, props to him, lift him up. We all saw it. He lift him up, knee him in the face, so makes it legal. Bring the doctor in, because that's what you're supposed to do. They take a look at the fighter, and then of course the conversation with the fighter. How you doing? How many fingers do I have up? Depending on what the injury is, that whole mess. And then during that time, Dan gets, John calls Dan over and says, "Hey, come here, look at the replay. It's legal." All right. So Dan then has a point where you kind of see him like, hey, he goes up and tells the doctors, "Hey, the fight's legal, or the knees are legal. Chris, those knees are legal. It's a legal blow. Like, you still have 5 minutes." That's not true. You don't have 5 minutes when you get injured. You only have 5 minutes when you get kicked in the testicles. When you get a groin shot, that's the only time you have 5 minutes. That's the only time there's a timeline on what you have going on. When you get kneed in the head, you have as much time as the ref wants to kind of give you. 5 minutes is always a good rule, because if you can't recover within 5 minutes from any kind of blow, then the fight's going to be over anyway. Like, if you're not recovered from that at that point, we got to stop the fight. So Dan is trying to get politely, because he's a very polite man. For his size, you think he'd be a little more gruff, but he's very polite. He's trying to kind of coax the doctors out of the cage. The doctors are like having this conversation. Now, mind you, Dan is mic'd, puts his hand over his chest, so you can't hear what's actually being said. And then when he's talking to Chris in the very beginning, and then he's talking to the doctors, it's the same thing again. He's trying to get the doctors out of the ring. At some point, because I DVR'd it, kept replaying it again. At some point, Chris said he couldn't continue. Now, once you say that to the doc, it makes no difference when, where, what happened, what's going on now within the fight. Fight's done. And it's
Same
not
thing if you say it to the ref. If you say to the ref, "I can't continue," fight over.
Well, I think he said to the doctors when Dan was out running around talking to Gegard and talking outside, and because then the doctor's like, "Hey, he said he can't continue," because that's their conversation. Because maybe there's two doctors and they're having this conversation. This is what I understand right now. Now, mind you, a whole new thing can come out after we get done with this. So what happens now is that Chris says, "Hey, I can't continue," or something along those lines. Then fight's done. Now he's believing it's illegal. These knees are illegal when he says it, right? The knees are illegal. So he's saying, hey, I can't continue. So now all of a sudden, he's hoping that Gegard's going to get, he's going to win the fight. And Gegard's going to take a loss because it was a legal knee. Then he finds out after, hey, it's legal. Now all of a sudden, Chris is like, yeah, I'm good. I want to go. I'm good. But it's like saying, hey, I can't see. If you ever tell a doctor or a referee, hey, I can't see, the automatically, if you get an eye poke and the referee comes in, he goes, hey, how are you? He goes, hey, I can't see. Immediately the doctor's coming in, take a look at the eye. You tell a doc, hey, I can't see, fight's done. You can't see, the fight's over. You said it. It's not my fault. You said it. So Chris, I believe Chris had said, hey, I don't think I continue, or I'm not ready to continue, or whatever it is. Like there was something said to the doctors to make them believe that he said he can't continue. And then the moment he gets told, hey, the knees are legal, he's like, I'm ready to go. I want to go. But it's too late, depending on the doctor. Some doctors like, I'm sorry, did you say you can't continue? Because you understand if you say that, I have to stop the fight. Like they talk you through it before they actually make the decision. And some doctors are like, nope, that's what he said. We're done. And they just end the fight. So sometimes you have to, it depends on the personality of the doctor and how the doctor wants to handle it. But at that point now, it's not a doctor stoppage, which would have been announced if the doctor had stopped it. Chris had stopped it. So that's also why it's going to be very hard for them to appeal. Because when they appeal, they're going to bring the doctors back in. The doctor's going to say, no, he said he couldn't continue. And that's it. Like, there's nothing to appeal. Because you said you can't do this anymore, the fight is off. And so I feel bad for Gegard, and I feel bad for Chris. Both guys came to fight. Both guys planned to put this together. Both guys walked out there to fight as hard as possible. And Gegard, was on his way back, was coming back. And because those knees were legal, he put Chris in a bad way. We all have to admit, those knees, whether legal or illegal, both landed flush. And Chris is now in a bad way. It doesn't matter whether he was winning the fight up to this point or if he was losing the fight up to this point. He got smashed by those two knees. So really the fight that happened before the knees doesn't really mean anything anymore. Because Gegard, in my mind, Gegard was kind of getting schooled up a little bit by Chris. Then you get into now these knees, which are a game changer. We all know that's why we throw punches and strikes, because it can change the tide of the fight. The fight gets changed. Now Chris is in a bad way. He is now on a downslope. And what is that? Now it's his third loss. He was trying to stop his third loss from happening. He was on to 2 at that point. And so, as a fighter, he's like, look, I got to make sure I win this fight because I'm used to be the champ, and now I'm on the chopping block. If I lose this fight, three fight loss, it's like, how much longer are they going to keep me around? And let me get to 5 losses? Or they're going to cut me at 4 losses? Like, what's going to happen with me now at this point? So I'm sure a lot of that was going through his head. And it's a difficult situation, man, because he was trying to keep his hands down. And he just got pulled up and got knee in the face. And so now, in my personal opinion, I think that if Dan hadn't stopped the fight and had deemed that those knees were legal, Gegard would have started having his way with Chris, because he was not loopy. And then I don't care how tough you are, I don't care how skilled you are not going to be able to start to fight back when you're that loopy as effectively as you were the 30 seconds before. So now Gegard can start taking over and might have finished it by KO or TKO anyway. We'll never know that, but that's what I'm saying. These things go into a factor. So I feel bad for both guys, because this fight was great and was on its way to be an amazingly super hype fight. And then now we're stuck with Chris on the way out and Gegard moving up the ranks. And that's just how it works when you have these fights. But they're definitely not letting Chris go. I can't see them, cutting Chris out entirely. That's just crazy.
I'm going to follow up with one question regarding that in a second. I just want to say what's up to everybody. Am I coming through your phone there? Or on your thing? Okay, sorry. I want to say what's up to everyone on the live chat. Roy Soria says, sup, Showdown Joe. What's up, my man? I will get to Casey Walton's question in a second. But Frank, I do want to follow up regarding what you said and the whole situation with Musashi and Weidman. So Musashi obviously said in the post-fight press conference that Chris was trying to cheat the rules. He was trying to play the rules, trying to cheat, and he got caught for it. He got nailed in the head twice with 2 knees. Considering there were legal blows, you're saying, I'm saying, people are saying Chris Weidman was on his way out. We don't know for sure. I mean, you can't really throw a what if in there, but based on what we saw there, he was on his way to losing that fight. Then he says he cannot continue. Now, whether he cannot continue because he feels that he was cheated, or cannot continue for real because he's dazed and confused, is the other argument there. But based on all this, should we have a rematch with these two or no? Musashi won fair and square. He moves up. Weidman's got to fight someone else.
As a fan, I would love to see a rematch. I would love to see a rematch between these two guys. But the reality of it is that Gegard has kind of been pushed aside for long enough. He's at the point now where he's like, look, I've been winning. I'm on this now 5-fight win streak. If I remember correctly, he's turning his way through. Like, he needs to be moved up to figure out what the hell is going to happen at the weight class. And they're hamstringing the weight class. We've talked about this before. They're hamstringing it by having the Bisping GSP fight. I mean, it's pretty well known that the odds makers, you and I, like everyone is like, Bisping versus Yoel Romero is the fight that should be happening, and Yoel Romero is going to win that fight pretty easily. It's just one of those deals. But now Gegard is now stuck down here at this space where he was 5, just beat number 4. You got to move up to 4, maybe even up to number 3, depending on how things look. But he's still in the game. He's still, in the top 4 or 5 guys. He's one fight away from being in the title hunt. He's one injury away, or one booking where somebody else is booked up. He's away from being in a title hunt. Like, he's very close at this point. For him to fight Chris again does nothing for him. because it's 4 versus 5. It doesn't move him up any ranks. He loses, he goes back on the 5. He wins, he still stays at 4. So why have the rematch? So from a guard standpoint, I get it, why he doesn't want to have the rematch and why he wants to move on. Of course, we all understand why Chris wants the rematch, because it makes complete sense for him to go out there and fight and try to get that win back. But Gegard's kind of in the position to do whatever he wants at this point. They go, no, I'm gonna, you have to move me up. I'm not fighting Chris again. But Gegard is no longer, as of right now at this moment in time, at the moment we're doing this, he's not on a contract with UFC. His last fight is his last fight. That's it. So in the middle of the negotiation process, if they go, look, here's your pay raise, and it's a significant pay raise, but you got to fight Chris Weidman, he's going to take it. He's going to sign it. He'll be like, yeah, okay, I'll take them. Because Gegard ultimately at the end of the day is a fighter. He's not going to duck a fight or not take a fight if that's what's going to cost him money for his family. That's the whole point of him fighting so much, is that he wants to make money for his family. So I hope it comes out to a rematch. I would love to see it as a fan. Like, I think that fight would be great to watch again. And honestly, the way that Chris was winning and the way that Gegard came back, and then the controversy at the end, it leaves us all kind of hollow. We all want to have a decisive ending to it.
Guys, live chat. Make sure you get your questions and comments up there. There's one up there from Casey Walton, which I'll read momentarily. If you are watching live, top right of your screen, it says live chat. Any of your thoughts, questions, and comments, I will try and get to them with Frank. You mentioned that Gegard is a free agent. I put together a piece for Fightful MMA.com, the black, the white, and the gray of this whole negotiation between the UFC, Dana White, Gegard Mousasi, and his camp. And no pun intended, I know black, white, Dana White, blah, blah, blah. But Casey Walton brings up a cool what if.
Racist, Joseph. Just racist.
If you're the UFC and can only keep one while the other person goes to Bellator, who are you keeping and investing in? Mousasi or Jacare?
Mousasi. Simply because Jacare's English isn't very good. Wow. That's the only flaw. Both guys are amazingly good athletes. Both guys are really good fighters in different ways. Jacare obviously is the more explosive, can get to a submission a lot quicker. I mean, he's obviously got an amazingly good submission game. But the UFC is not in that position, which is the cool thing about it. The UFC's got more money than God, so they can go. We'll keep them both, and they'll find a way to keep both because those are two good fighters you want to have on your roster. Either one of them goes to Bellator. They're running the division. They're taking over. There's nothing anybody can really catch them on. But the UFC's gonna keep both those guys for sure. There's no way to let them go. It's just not gonna happen.
Jacare's got a pretty good scrap this weekend against Robert Whittaker. That's the fight for me this weekend. That's the one I definitely want to see. I want to ask you a question before we get to this UFC Kansas card. Sean Ross Sapp and I yesterday were discussing a few different things that potentially the UFC can do, or at least the new ownership can do, or I keep saying new ownership, the current ownership can do to build certain things. There was a time when Spike was going to do, before The Ultimate Fighter, they were going to do a show called The American Promoter, or American Promoter, where they were going to follow Dana White and the UFC and just a behind-the-scenes look of what the day-to-day operations are for, quote-unquote, an American promoter. And I brought up the fact that they could do more than just Dana White, just follow a guy like Lex McMahon as well. He does all kinds of things that you would never believe a guy has to do to run off a successful promotion like Titan FC. This Mousasi and Dana White negotiations would be just that episode alone, or that miniseries alone, would be absolutely fantastic. The second thing that we had brought, or that Sean Ross Sapp had brought up, was, actually, what? I'll get to the second thing in a moment when we get to the UFC Kansas card. Do you think this American promoter show now would be a fantastic idea to see what it's like to be behind the scenes of the UFC?
No. I do. And this is because it's going to ruin the image. It's going to ruin the magic of how these negotiations go on. Like, we all think at home, oh, Dana's on the phone with Gegard, and they're arguing and yelling, oh, 10% and 3%. I want pay-per-view numbers, and give me a brand new Rolls Royce, and I want to be like Conor McGregor, and it's be this whole thing going back and forth. And it's really like a text message, an email, and it's between the manager, in this case Nima, and Dana White, getting the deal done. It goes back and forth. Nima's a lawyer. He's, Dana gives a couple of thoughts, but then you end up talking to the lawyers at the UFC. It's really not what everyone thinks it is when you go through these negotiations. It's all attorneys talking to attorneys, and then trying to get these contracts done, trying to get the numbers. And then when you get a number hitch, you go back to Dana and go, hey, look, he wants this amount. And then when you get the Nima goes, okay, here's the number. He goes to the guard and goes, hey, this is the number they're offering you. What do you want to do? And he's like, I don't want more. And then Nima goes, hey, I think we should get more, or hey, I should think we should get less, or whatever his opinion is. Then the guard usually listens to it and it goes back to the attorney. So it's all the attorneys working out with a very few things going on between back to Dana, back to the guard. But the guard and Dana hardly ever get in conversation unless it gets stuck. Unless there's a real stuck, then Dana will reach out to the fighter and go, hey, look, I'm trying to get this deal done. Let's get this deal done. But your manager's like hamstringing. He always blame the manager. The manager's hamstringing. The manager's sitting on it. It's really not that much fun. It's really not. It's kind of like, it's like everyone thinks being in the FBI is awesome. Being in the CIA is awesome. And it's really just mounds and mounds and mounds and mounds of research and reading and Googling and paperwork. And that's all it is. So it's like we look at these movies like, oh my God, James Bond is incredible. Oh my God, look how great he is, 007. But the reality of it is like, dude, this is just stupid. Like this is really, really, really boring. And that's kind of what it would be like. The American promoter portion of it would be great, or would have been great at the time. One, because no one understood what was going on at all. And two, Dana was on like a 50-state tour trying to get MMA and UFC booked to the top, and he was going crazy. Now he doesn't do that as much. He's not out as much. He doesn't need to be. The UFC is he spent all that time doing it back then, and now it's an icon. Like you talk to anybody, you can almost ask them. Unfortunately, in America, I know the hockey playoffs are going on right now, but in America, you can ask them. They may not know what weight the champ is at, but they'll be able to name two of the champs in the UFC, even if they're not diehard fans. They'll be able to name two of the champs in the UFC, and they might even watch it. They might only be casual watchers. They'll only get on USA Today or get on a Fightful MMA maybe once in a while to look at some results. So it's like now the American promoter thing doesn't really work with Dana. With a guy like Lex, I think it works because he's more involved, and it really is him talking to the fighters. Or him talking to like a whole team. He's talking to American top team all at once. Or talking to the Black Zillions all at once. Like he's got direct access to all these guys because he's in Southern Florida. So I think for like a Lex type, that's a genius idea, is to put it on for someone like that. Or you got to follow somebody different around. It's like, because it's like we're already kind of seeing it. What's the one with Din Thomas, Matt Serra, and Dana White? The YouTube.
Looking for a fight.
Looking for a fight. That's pretty much what American promoter is. That's like kind of what Dana does. He goes and watches a bunch of fights. And really, if it wasn't for the antics of them driving cars around some compound or getting on motorcycles and stuff and going to Sturgis, which has nothing to do with being a promoter, has absolutely nothing to do with the part of what we're talking about. Otherwise, it's kind of a boring situation. You're just going to watch fights again. It's like another. And how many fights does Dana watch live? Like like at this point, he's even getting bored watching all these fights. It's just getting too much. So like. With like a Dana Dwight, I don't think it works. I don't think it works anymore, just because of what the antics, what goes on, and what they'd have to hide, and what you can't see legally, what they have going on in the background now, especially with WMG Endeavor, taking over. But with like I said, with a Lex type, they'd be awesome to watch him do it.
Frank Trigg, ladies and gentlemen, is a buzzkill and an idea killer. So I respectfully disagree. I think it'd be fantastic, but that's why he's on, to disagree with me. Guys, live chat. Don't forget, get your thoughts and questions and comments up there. We will get to them as we continue the show. Graham Williams actually posted something, it was yesterday or the day before, one of the biggest Fightful MMA supporters. He does a lot of our graphics. Or post a lot of stuff up there on social media, posed a question I wasn't able to answer, and I'll ask you this question. Because Dana White mentioned that, the New York State Athletic Commission, we all know, is relatively new when it comes to mixed martial arts, and it feels like they've gone, the UFC and the sport, whenever they go to New York, has gone back to 2001 every time they have an event in New York. So Graham had mentioned, with all these situations and debacles that are happening in New York, do you think the UFC will shy away from having events in New York State? And I didn't have a chance to answer it. And my answer is, oh, hell no. The amount of money that they spent to sanction and regulate mixed martial arts in New York State, they have to make that money back. And the only way to really make that money back is to continue to have events in New York State, but just more work needs to be done with the Mark Ratners of the world and the commission to make sure that they operate, the way Vegas and California does. What say you, sir?
100% agree with you. 100%. 17,000 fans in Buffalo, $2 million gate. That's just a drop in the bucket of how much they spent to get things going. I forget what they did in Madison Square Garden. Maybe it was a $3 million gate or something, or a $2.5 million gate. It's not astronomical, but they're trying to get their money back. The thing is that I don't think it's going to be pay-per-views anymore. I think it's going to be fight nights. I think they're going to downgrade the shows they show up in New York with. And they're going to go to like Syracuse, Albany. They'll start going to different spots throughout the state. Because I don't think the commission, so it's like anything else. Remember the first time, you guys probably don't remember, the first time I ever commentated for real was with Ryan Bennett in a WC show. He just called me up and said, hey, drive up I was living in LA. He's like, drive up. At that time, it was called HDNet, which is now Access Television. And I get thrown on the mic, and I've never done it before. And I've got to get dragged through this thing. And Ryan Bennett has to carry me every step of the way. He has to, he literally has to lead me up with everything for me to understand what's going on, because I have no idea what's happening. That's my first show. By my 200th show and my 33rd with Pride or whatever it was, I barely have to do anything. I'm researching all the whole week before. I've got my pattern down. I've got my rhythm. I'm reading on the plane on the way over to Japan. Oh no, excuse me. Those were in Vegas. On my way over to Vegas, I'm getting everything squared away. Like I know what I'm doing, and all of a sudden now it's like it's perfect. New York right now is at the stage where I was on my first show at WEC. They don't really know what's going on yet because they don't have enough reps. They need more reps doing it. They can have a ton of fights. They can have a ton of local promotions, pro promotions, but nothing is quite like the UFC when they show up. Nothing is quite like that. So you have to have a lot more reps to do that. And so if the UFC jumps away from New York, it's not going to make them any better. It's not going to make New York any better because they're waiting for them to get better. You need the UFC to be there. You need Bellator to be there all the time to get these bigger events going on. New York will get better. Just like any other commission, the more reps they get in, they will get better. And it's just unfortunate because the debacle that happened, it was a Jermaine Drummondry and Holly Holm fight. Right, that was the Madison Square Garden fight where Todd Anderson was reffing. Am I correct in that? Where she kept throwing punches after the bell?
Was that MSG? You might be right. Yeah, okay.
But that was a big deal. Like she kept throwing after the bell. Todd was like, oh, so now all of a sudden it's a New York Commission problem. Then this one with Anderson, or excuse me, with Weidman and with Gegard, all of a sudden now it's a New York Commission problem. But really look at those two situations, and I could be wrong on that home Geronimo thing, but I think I'm correct in that, and that's what happened. That it's not a New York State Commission thing. If you notice, both those things were referee assignment things. They were not commission things. If those happened in any other commission, it would have been the same result because those referees handled those situations the way that they handled it. So it really comes down to, it's not like it's not like Towelgate with Cormier making weight. It's not like Towelgate.
By the way, I don't know if you know, Frank, I wasn't aware of that being one of the oldest tricks in the book. I was just kind of like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Today, I tried it. I have above my scale I've got a digital scale. Above my scale, I have one of those rings where you hang your towel over. So I stepped on the scale this morning after I did cardio. Yeah, I dropped some weight because I did some cardio, I was sweating. Then I just put my fingers on the ring and I just literally just touched the ring. Dude, I almost lost a pound. I was like, oh my God, this is for real.
Yeah, it's that's just, we've been doing that stuff since I started wrestling at 12. I think by 14, we're pulling that stuff off. Like it just, you get away with it. Every athlete in every sport is gonna jump on the gray line. We're not gonna stay black and white. We're gonna jump right on that line and see what we can get away with. And we try to get away with it. And so, yeah, for sure, Cormier put his hands on those towels, took off. You're not gonna lose a pound and a quarter in 2.5 minutes. If that he came back so fast. I don't want the towel to fall. Okay, whatever. That's just what it is. That's what the game is. And he got away with it. And so that understand that's a commission issue. That's the inspectors and that's the head commissioner sitting there watching that weigh-in, and he allowed that to happen, or she allowed that to happen. I'm not sure it's a male or female. That's a commission issue. These other things aren't really New York issue problems. They aren't really New York problems. If I were in there, to be honest with you, if I was in there with instead of Dan during the Weidman fight, I probably would have done the exact same way that things went down. I would have done the exact same thing. And I don't have the qualifications to be in a main event like that right now. So I'm talking about, this is a guy, Dan Miguelado, who's got hundreds, thousands of fights ref, and he's in there. And I probably would have done it I would probably have done it the exact same way, if not worse. You know what I'm saying? So it's not or I don't want to make it sound like that Dan did something wrong. He didn't do anything wrong, but I would have done it probably the exact same way, right? And so now you're in a situation where it doesn't matter. It's not the commission. The commission didn't bring me in. Dan was there. John McCarthy was there. Those guys were reffing, and that's what happened. So I think it would have doesn't make a difference who was in that position at that time. No matter what the referee was in, it could have been Todd Anderson was there reffing as well. He could have been in the ring, and it would have happened the same way. John could have been in the ring. It would have happened the same way. Like you know what I'm saying? Like these things just happen. That fight happened the way that fight happened, no matter what commission it was in. It was not New York. But New York is new. They got stuff they got to fix.
All right, Graham Williams has jumped on the chat. I'll get to your question in a second, Graham. I want to go really quickly with another one from Casey Walton. He says, Joe, with your boy Kamaru Usman on a hot streak, if you could line up his next 3 fights en route to a title shot, who would you like to see him defeat to earn that shot? Now, the problem with this being a what-if question, Casey, is if you do the math, so right now, Kamaru had a fantastic fight versus Sean Strickland. Really good fight, dominating fight. He's called out Neil Magny. In order to get the next 2 or 3 fights after that, let's just do the math hypothetically. A fighter competes every 3.5 months. That's about a year from now to determine what's going to happen and whether or not Kamaru will get a title shot. The landscape at 170 pounds will change so much within a year. History has proven that it's really difficult to say who he should be fighting, because if you look at guys above him in the ranking right now, you've got Gunnar Nelson, who's victorious, and he said he doesn't want to fight Gunnar Nelson because he doesn't think Gunnar Nelson will bring the striking aspect. Cerrone's there. He's taken on Robbie Lawler. He's already called the stun gun out, but the stun gun has an opponent. Masvidal's taken on Damian Maia, so maybe the winner of that, maybe the winner of Lawler and Cerrone. It all depends on that. And Stephen Thompson just came out of a title fight. Maybe him in the future. Tyron's the champ. So it's very difficult to say what I would want for for Kamaru basically in the future. In my opinion, focus on the one fight, Neil Magny, who I think would be a fantastic fight for Kamaru, and then we just take it step by step from there. Frank, what do you say?
So isn't he ranked 14th or something right now? Or was ranked 14th before the fight?
Yeah, Kamaru's number 10 as we speak.
And so he got moved up to 10. So you're talking about putting him in a position where he's going to be fighting guys that are way ahead of him, way ahead of him at this point in the rankings. Now, of course, you're going to jump you're going to jump 2 or 3 spots every time it's your fight. Neil Magny fight's a perfect fight, but the problem is you forgot to mention one cat in that whole mess. We're still missing GSP. So where does he go in this whole mess? Does he stay up at 85 if he beats Bisping? Does he come back? Does he go down to 70 and try to challenge Tyron Woodley? Like, what's he going to do? So the landscape of 170 changes within a year normally. Like, 170, 185, the kind of landscapes kind of change because that's the biggest bell curve where most people are height, weight-wise. Then you add in, a guy that's trying to be the greatest fighter of all time in GSP. Also now you put him in that mix, the whole thing gets switched up. And then add into, is Usman going to fight 4 times this year? Is he going to try to fight every 3 months?
I don't think so.
You're looking at 2 fights this year. You know what I'm saying? And he's got, he trains really hard all the time. So he's always got some tweaked little, not agonizing, but annoying knee injury, ankle injury, shoulder injury, hand injury, because he's always training. He's always out there and he's going hard as balls the entire time, which is why he's 5-0 in the UFC. I really don't think he's going to go that fast. I agree with you. The Neil Magny fight, concentrate on that. It's a great fight. It's a fan fight. It's going to be super smart and it's very, very good to go along with. And then to be honest with you, Gunnar Nelson's a really tough fight for him. It's a super tough fight for him.
Well, Kamaru does say he's the best grappler at 170 pounds, and you got Gunnar Nelson and Damian Maia in that division. So pretty bold statement from Kamaru. Yeah,
it's tough. He's getting up to a spot where he's gonna be like, I really got to buckle down. I really got to get super scientific in my training camps because these guys coming after me are going to be tough. You got the best. You have honestly, I think Rogan says it quite a bit. He thinks that Damian Maia is the best grappler and best submission guy in MMA right now. And man, Gunnar Nelson is, if he's not the best, he's damn near right there on the nipping on his heels because that kid And he doesn't care. Like, he's got you knocked out. He wants to look for a submission.
Yeah, that's what he did in his last fight. Absolutely. Graham Williams, do either of you see more fighters becoming involved with acting/media work in an attempt to expand their relevancy and value to the UFC, as well as become more comfortable and adept at selling fights? I think that's a fair assessment. It's a fair question, but it's up to the individual, because some guys and girls can't act. Their life depended on it. They can't get in front of a microphone and do any media work, let alone answer questions in an interview. Because I've worked with a few people that, they co-hosted my TV show at the time, and it was horrendous. I've done interviews, Frank, with people where I'm like, yeah, third question in, we're only 45 seconds into this interview. I'm already on my third question. Wrap this up. This thing's 1 minute and 30 seconds. So it all depends on the individual. They do have social media now, but there are options to get out there. But that's a very, very, it's almost systematic. What do you make of that?
I just interviewed Scotty Holtzman, who's fighting UFC in April 21st. Yesterday, actually interviewed him. And I love interviewing that guy because he's very country. He's very manufactural. Man, I'd love to tell you that the weight cut was great. I'd love to tell you that getting up at 6 in the morning to go cut my last 3 or 4 pounds is awesome before the 9 a.m. weigh-in. I'd like to tell you I felt great walking into my fight, but without the IVs, man, I didn't feel good. I just didn't feel. And he's very straight. He's very manufactural. And we had a conversation. That kid will never be an actor. That kid will be a commentator. He's going to be very manufactured. He's going to tell you just like it is, and he's going to give you an honest opinion. Not going to lie. He's not going to cheat. Not going to steal. But he is not going to hype you up. Take a guy like Bisping, the man will always be in front of the camera. The camera always finds a way to find him. He's always going to be polarizing. He's always going to be a guy that people want to pay attention to, whether he's acting or doing commentating work. Now, to answer I'm sorry, I apologize for forgetting his name, but the person that asked the question, do we see more people going into acting and commentating work, more fighters to expand their style? No, I don't see more people doing it. I see the same amount that's always been doing it. The same amount that's always been trying to get into it. The problem is now, or the benefit is now, there's more opportunity. We all were trying to get on and to be commentators. We all were trying to be actors and stunt guys and trying to get those sideline jobs and get extra income coming in. We've all been trying to do that. There's just more opportunity now, because when I walk into some places to get a stunt job, like today I applied for a stunt job before we started the show in LA for a pretty big fight scene. That's coming up, and they're looking for a Middle Eastern thug, which I play a lot of Middle Eastern guys. So I applied for it, and the stunt coordinator I've never worked for before, but in my signature on my email, it says UFC Hall of Fame. It's got a photo of the Hall of Fame trophy and my headshot in it that I send over to stunt guys. Guy answered back, "Holy crap, this really is you. I saw your name come across. I wasn't sure if it was really you. Oh my God, I remember all your fights. It's awesome. I'm putting you in the top of the list to get in for the stunt job." Dude, I haven't fought in 7 years. this guy is like, oh my God. So he's like, that Hall of Fame piece, that UFC title to it, has got me in front of, now it's to the director, and the director's got to make a decision if he likes my look, likes my reel, that whole game comes on to it. But it gave me an opportunity to get to the top. When you're Tyron Woodley, and who's also doing stunts actively, he walks into a place, you're like, oh, he's a champ. He's a champ right now in the UFC. Boom, right to the top. Right to the top. You get a guy like Dominic Cruz. You get a guy like Bisping. You get a guy like Fabricio Verdum, who's getting a lot of heat right now for being for something he's doing overseas. But these guys all get moved to the top of the list. So these guys have opportunity and more opportunity because the UFC's expanded so much. There's so much more space for these guys. But no, we're not going to see any more guys getting into it. It's still going to be the same amount, which is 90% of all the fighters are trying to do this stuff.
All right, we're going to have to do some rapid fire because we've got about 6 minutes left in the show. We'll be super quick with some of these answers, guys. Lots of stuff coming up there on the live chat, and we got to get to really quick to UFC Kansas. Roy Soria asked, do you think there's any way that the UFC can fine Rumble Johnson because he looked like he didn't give a bleep about that fight? People are saying they potentially threw that fight and or was looking for an easy way out. I don't think they'll be able to fine him. I don't think they'll be able to do anything, to be honest with you, because the UFC or the commission pays him based on what the UFC put out there in the contract. But I see where Roy's going with this. Your thoughts, Frank?
Yeah, it looked like he was already set on retirement. It looked like he's already set to get out, and he was going to retire if he won the belt. He was out. So he's already got a job. He's already got something set up. Our understanding is it's in football someplace, not as an athlete in the executive office or in the strength and conditioning room. That's the last rumor. It's just a rumor. It's the last rumor I heard. But yeah, he looked like he wanted out. Like, you don't grapple Daniel Cormier. You punch him. That's what if you're AJ, that's what you're gonna do. He didn't do that. It looked like he's very okay with and content with his fight career, and he's out. He's ready to move on.
Anthony Agley, salute to both you, Joe and Frank. Do you think if Manoa doesn't get either Jones or Cormier next, since the division is so shallow, should he fight Glover next? Well, unfortunately, Glover's fighting Alexander Gustafsson, so that's something you'd have to look at. And considering Gustafsson and Jimmy basically trained together, they've already fought. I could see where that fight does make sense, but it's another one of those situations, Frank, where the variables, the stars have to sort of align. But I do get what Anthony's saying, because unfortunately, with Rumble leaving this division, it was so top heavy, and now you're removing another guy from the top there. It's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, they're looking for new talent for sure. At that weight class, they got to find some new talent. They got to get some new guys built up. I don't know what they're going to do with Manoa, because really the fight everybody wants to see is DC Jones. That's the fight everybody wants to see. DC doesn't want that fight, rightfully so. Jones is cheating. Now he came out, the dick pills were, everyone should be taking dick pills or whatever. I'm like, you're just now you're just a moron. Like you obviously have not learned anything. You've not gotten any better. You're just an idiot now at this point. So I get DC.
Said that.
Go ahead, Joe.
What Jones said to the media, to all of us, you guys should do it. And I was like, oh, John. Yeah, I've given up on that kid. So I get DC's point of not wanting to fight him and totally wanting to skip him because he cheated. He's been caught cheating. He's been caught having problems. Like, why have that fight? I can see DC and Manoa fighting next to make Jones stall and make Jones have to fight. And Dana White came out and said, yeah, I'm not going to make him a main event. I'm making him a co-main event because he's been known not to show up. He's got to prove to me. So that's my feeling of Dana saying you're not getting a title shot. You got to get a couple fights in first, or at least one fight in before you get in. So I think it's going to be. It could be Manoa Jones for number one contender for sure. Yeah, Vinny Fernando makes a funny point, though. We are looking at a situation where Shogun is a win and an injury away from a title shot. You know what, Vinny? I wouldn't doubt that, to be honest with you.
He really is.
UFC Kansas, Frank, Demetrius Johnson, he is headlining another show on Fox. People are saying this guy deserves to be on pay-per-view. Unfortunately, we live in a society that looks at mixed martial arts where bigger is better, and a guy that's 125 pounds, arguably the perfect mixed martial artist, cannot get any love, does not sell. People will not buy those pay-per-views, even if you put him on a co-main event. You're not buying because Demetrius Johnson, which absolutely sucks in my opinion. But Sean Ross Sapp made a really good point. The UFC should go out there and promote this guy in a manner that shows him beating the crap out of big people, whether in training, whether it's dudes off the street, and show that a 125-pound fighter is a dominant force when guys think they're 210 pounds and can beat up a guy who's half their size. I thought, you know what? That's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
Another buzzkill. Here we go.
Come
on, Frank.
DJ's in a really bad spot. He's about to be the best. He's probably the best fighter in the world right now. He's about to be in a situation where he ties Anderson Silva's record, and that's not where he's going to stop. He's going to go through and smash through that record too. Like, it's just what he's going to do. They got to do a better job promoting it. They have to. You got a great. I mean, Mayweather was 147 pounds, 142 pounds. He wasn't a heavyweight, but everyone loved him. Why did everybody love him? Because he self-promoted. They promoted him. They put him out there. He did his antics, whatever. DJ's not that kind of. He's not a Mayweather type where he's gonna have a lot of those antics and stuff. He likes to play video games. Likes to stay home and hang out with his wife and kids. Like, that's just who he is. He doesn't do any commentating detail at all. He doesn't get on a mic at all. He just likes to train and fight and spend time with his family. They're having a real hard time with him. You're right, man. He cannot headline a pay-per-view. There's just no one's buying any numbers. Just not doing it. And you're disrespecting him and making him a co-main event. He's just unfortunately stuck to being fight night guy. That's just what it's going to happen. That's just how it goes. And it sucks because he's a champ. He should be getting pay-per-view money, but you're not on pay-per-view cards. What are you going to do? Where's the extra money coming from? So what's the UFC doing for him in the back? Because that's potentially for guys like McGregor, it's an extra $1 million. For some guys, an extra $500,000, $600,000, $800,000. Like, there's extra money to be made. When you're on a pay-per-view card. And he's not making it. He's on his fight night card. So I don't know what they're doing in the background or what happened with his thing. DJ, I mean, I'm a 200-pound man, and I'm a former highly trained athlete. DJ's gonna give me problems at 135 pounds, whatever he weighs, walking around at. Like, he's gonna give me issues. I'm gonna have to grab his little square head and smash it against the wall a couple times. Make him stop. He's gonna give me problems. Yeah. He's a guy that can beat up. He can beat up most of humanity up to about 250 pounds. Most of the guys walking around the street, he can smash up to about 250 pounds. Get a guy that's kind of trained, kind of knows what he's doing. He'll start having problems around 210, 215. But he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. He's an amazing fighter. And like you said, the best fighter that there is right now. Like he has he's got the perfect fight game.
All right, we got 1 minute, 5 fights. You ready?
Go.
Alexander Volkov at heavyweight taking on Roy Nelson.
Nelson.
You think Nelson's gonna win, eh?
Yeah. I just like the way Nelson went through his training camp. I like he's got in his corner. He's got all the Extreme Couture guys in his corner from Vegas. And I just like his attitude. Like, his attitude's kind of snippy and a little snappy like it used to be. It's gonna be close.
All right, yeah, I think so. Going from almost defeating Frankie Edgar to now fighting Renato Moicano, Jeremy Stevens versus Renato Moicano. Holy is the pressure on Jeremy Stevens on this fight.
Yeah, he's got a lot of pressure on him. This fight should be a good win for him, but I don't know how he's going to deal with the pressure right now because he didn't do very well against the Frankie Edgar pressure. So let's see what happens with Jeremy, but I'm leaning towards Jeremy.
Ronaldo Jacare Souza and Robert Whittaker.
Man, that one I got to leave alone. I can't even tell you who to pick. That one I'm just going to sit down and put a beer in my hand and enjoy with my feet up. That fight is going to be amazing, absolutely amazing. But you got to think off the top. You got to think, hey, it's Jacare is going to win that fight. But who the hell knows? Man, Whittaker is a stud.
I think Jacare pulls it off. He's just magic to me. He's one of my favorite guys to watch. Co-main event. Women's strawweight bout. Rose Namajunas taking on the karate hottie, Michelle Watterson.
Karate hottie just because of her experience level. She's got more time in. She knows how to battle back through deep things, but you can never count Rose out, man. Doug Rose has got her game put together. She's getting better all the time. She's finally, establishing herself as being. She's always been gritty and tough, but now she's starting to establish herself as a tactician. But I'm leaning towards karate hottie.
I'm going to go with Rose Namajunas in that one. Main event. Demetrius Money Mouse Johnson defending his title, looking to become etch his place in UFC history, mixed martial arts history, taking on Wilson Hayes. Your thoughts on this one, quick?
DJ, for sure. Like, DJ is going to run through him. It's not going to be a first round.
25 minutes? Sorry?
It's not going to be a first rounder. It's going to be like third or fourth round. It's going to be later. Yeah, for sure it's going to be later. It's going to be his cardio is going to overcome him, and then all of a sudden, Hayes is going to fall apart.
Stranger things have happened, Frank. Can you imagine? We hear and new UFC flyweight chat. It's MMA, man.
keeps us in a job for one more week because we'll have some
exactly. All right. And speaking of the next week, before we say goodbye, make sure you do follow him at Frank Trigg on social media. What do you got going on over the next week, Frank?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We had Triple Frontier, the movie that was being shot here with Tom Hardy and Channing Tatum. Paramount just canceled it. So we're all of us were booked and doing pre-prep and pre-viz, and we're all getting ready to do all that stuff starting next week. And they just came down the pipeline that Paramount's canceled the movie. So right now I got nothing going on. I'm unemployed, trying to find a job.
Unemployed, growing a beard, probably doing some sailing?
Yeah. Actually, I'm going sailing this afternoon, I think, or tomorrow. You say Thursday? Tomorrow. I'm going sailing tomorrow. Tomorrow morning I'm going sailing.
Tough gig. Well, we thank you again for your time. We know it's super early.
All the time. Beast out of my little head. Like, it's got to keep reapplying stuff. Sometimes the ice melts before you get back, so the beer isn't always as cold as it used to be. Like, it's tough out there. It's a hard life.
Don't hurt your shoulders. Do not hurt your shoulders. Rotator cuff injuries suck, Frank. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you do follow him online. It's super early in the morning there in Hawaii, but we do thank you, Frank, for always joining us. Follow him online at Frank Trigg on all his social media. He does run all of his social media himself. He does not have anyone hired to answer your questions. If he doesn't answer or reply right away, give him time. If it's a valid question or concern, he will reply, but just give him time. You can follow us here at Fightful MMA. Yours truly, Joe Farrell, can be found at Showdown Joe. Tomorrow, the Fightful MMA podcast will likely go off around 12:30 p.m. I am securing the guest as soon as I'm done here. It'll be an interesting guest, to say the least. We will either have someone that is going to break down the fights better than every guest, including myself, on this podcast, very analytical person. If not, we will have someone that probably drops a lot of F-bombs. So I'm just juggling between which one is available. And when I find out, I will make sure I send it out there via social media. We thank all of you who tuned in live. We thank you, everyone who joined us on the live chat. To those tuned in now, thank you very much. I say it all the time, guys. Before you come on here, tell one friend. Just tell one friend to come join and watch the podcast or download the podcast. We will grow exponentially if we do that. Just one friend is all we're asking for. To those that have tuned in on iTunes and on Stitcher afterwards, we thank you as well. Don't forget, tell a friend. But until then, till tomorrow, 12:30 Eastern, we say ciao for now.